Today I pulled over to this page and I wanted to play with Kecia Deveney's new stencils. And you probably all saw these. I think they might have come out last week or maybe even the week before, but I was talking about StencilClub last week. And they're very, very cool. I'm going to move my journal page so you can see. Here's one of them. And I love how they have, here's another one actually that I cut up. So, because you know how I am. I think that one in there. So I have been playing with them and making some little parts. And I love these parts that you can make from this. Oh, stitching 3 words a day. Wow, Beverly, that is a really, really cool idea. 3 words a day. That, you're stopping me in my tracks here. So sorry, I can't continue. I have been sidetracked by Beverly. Oh, good grief. Well, anyway, okay, so here is what's kind of cool. These are just really, really spiritual stencils to me. And I know Kecia personally. She's a wonderful, wonderful human, and I know that these were personal to her when she designed them, and I just, gosh darn it, I really like them. I love the words dream, namaste, hope, peace, breathe. You know, back in the day, when I got my first, I think it might have been my first iPhone, could change, you know, you could change the screen on the front of your iPhone. And I changed it to breathe because I just felt like I was moving so fast in those days. And the word breathe really resonated with me. And yes, I had to tell myself to do it because apparently that's how it was. Yes. So anyway, what I think is kind of cool is like this one. They all just play with each other very, very well. Like you could just take these top little flower parts, this lotus, and use those. You could take the bottom parts and make a border. You could do so many different things. They all play together super, super beautifully. And I put a couple of them on black because I always like doing that. And then I'm going to fussy cut these out, because I know that I will like to use these in something else. So that was one thing I did with them. Another thing I did with them, this was with the lotus, as you can tell. So I took mineral paper and I just drizzled some ink on the mineral paper and then laid the stencil down on top, the lotus stencil, which here it is. And then I let it dry down, and here it is. You know, they are nice tattoo designs. They would be gorgeous tattoos, wouldn't they? And I do remember Kecia telling me that they would be great tattoos. Yeah, I had forgotten about that. Okay, so look at this lotus. This is on mineral paper, and you know how I love that mineral paper. So I got to thinking about this, ways to use these. And so you can go back into these parts. And if you're talking about making parts for the 100 days, this is something you're going to want to have in your toolkit. Oh, you got it, Leanne. Good, good. Okay, so I use Faber-Castell pens for this. And I'm going to do what I did to this one here that I cut out and put in. And I'm going to do the same thing with this little lotus. All right, so these are the Pitt pens, and I bet you guys own some of these because they were really big back in the day, and I really like the big fat ones because these fat ones you can, I'm just going to show you what you can do. These fat ones, you can paint a stamp, and then you can just, boop, you can stamp with them on the edge, see? And these Pitt pens are Indian ink. So they are very, very good pens. Super permanent. You don't have to put any fixative or anything like that on them. Now they do stay wet a little bit. We're going to demo them in a minute, but I thought I'd show you some of my ideas. So here's what I started with. I started with alcohol ink or acrylic ink. I wish I could remember, but they both respond very similarly on the mineral paper. The mineral paper, to refresh your memory, is made from rocks. It is not made from trees. It comes in a pack of, this is the size I buy, the 9x12, and you get 20 sheets. And what I usually do is cut them down, and the sheets are really, it's really thin paper. It says it's 100-pound paper, but it just feels so weird. It's just not like anything you've ever seen before. It almost feels like it's a Tyvek or a Yupo or something like that. And you cannot tear it. You have to cut it, but I love it. And I love it specifically because of how it works with alcohol inks and acrylic inks, and now with my Pitt pens. That's what I'm finding. So without further ado, how many times have I said that today? All right, so here's a Pitt pen. So you can go back in and you can color on here. And since it's permanent, you know, you won't have to do anything later. You can just go in and embellish and color. You know, I'm essentially like making my own little coloring book of collage components when I'm doing this. And I like the idea that that alcohol ink is right in there in the background. I think that that's very interesting because that's going to add more dimension to this particular collage component. I mean, it's going to make it look more interesting because it has these gorgeous watery results in the background. I'm thinking this one was an ink one. This doesn't look like alcohol to me, but who knows? So this is something you can do with your Pitt pens and with alcohol or with mineral paper. And I think I'm going to start getting ready for the 100 days by taking some of our stencils, ones that I know I want to cut out and use, and putting them on mineral paper like this, so that way I can embellish them further. Now, think about how you want to do it, because you have so many different options when you play with the stencil like this. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here. So see how, you know, since it's a stencil, there's the bridges in the stencil, right? So if you're going to color it in, you can go ahead and just color over the bridges if you want and get a completely different look. You could, I mean, I think that that's one thing that's certainly, you know, you could even connect that underneath that alcohol ink or the acrylic ink or whatever. This one's pretty transparent, but see how that connects it, and you get more of a one-piece look. Like nobody, when you go and use this later on, no one is going to be able to tell that you were using a stencil. You could just use any of these colors and make this as luscious as you want. Now, since these are Indian ink, we talked about that, they're permanent, but you get a little bit of time with them. So for instance, let's take, this is a light color. Let's get like 2 of these pink colors and make one of these petals kind of a pinky purple. They stay wet for just a second and you can blend it out. See how I blended out those brush strokes with my finger? And I love the fact that the tip is the brush size, because that just gives you so many options. Look at that. You can just blend it right out. So I love these. If you already have them, I think it might be something you would want to pull out and use as we move into this 100 days project. And you could certainly embellish your parts and make them quite detailed, quite detailed. When I did this one, I was using my big ones. And just for a point of reference, I did actually look this up this morning. The fat ones, these are called big brush versus these are just called Pitt artist pens. The fat one has 4 times the amount of ink in it as the skinny one. And they last a very, very long time. I have never had any dry out except for when I had accidentally broken the cap. And I did that on one, and then it did dry out because I had no way to keep it preserved. And that was a bummer. But anyway, so I think that they're well worth the money. If you go to a big Dick Blick store, like in a good city, or actually our one in St. Louis, they have open stock of these and of these, and it's so great to look at all the colors, and you can pick exactly what you want. My favorite color of all time, is dark chrome yellow. And the reason is because it responds very much, look at that. And then if you blend it out, it looks just, it adds that little glow. I mean, I don't know, I just really love it. So that is my favorite of all time. And I'm very fond of this color, which is Indian red. And that was the red that I used in here was the Indian red. Very, very nice color. And I thought I'd go back and go over these guys with that color to pop it a little bit over here. So Indian red's a good one, but they have so many colors. I mean, good Lord, you could just pick whatever you wanted. And this set, I bought myself one year for Christmas. I just went nuts and had to buy myself this set. And this color right here, this is Warm Gray 4. This is, when I was teaching with Pam Carricker, this was one of her favorite colors. And it's a beautiful, a warmed gray, as you might expect. So I'll put some in here and spread it out, and you can see how you can get some interesting depth and dimension. So don't forget about markers in your work. The big ones are not available in the Netherlands. Well, that sucks. That's not right. Huh. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, the little ones it's the same ink. It's just the size. It's absolutely just the brush, the amount of ink in the container. That's all it is. All right, so as I was experimenting, I'm going to just add some little grunge here on the edges. As I was experimenting with these, I was wondering, like, okay, so could you, for instance, take your mineral paper and put the stencil down and color it right on the mineral paper? Because you know how sometimes you get markers that they just don't, they like bleed underneath stuff and they're just not at all, what you want them to be. So I have not tried this, and I'm going to go ahead and try it, and we'll see what happens. And I want to try 2 things. This paper is that cheap finger painting paper, and then this is the good mineral paper that I'm working on. They're about the same weight, but they're different. So I'm just going to see. I have a feeling, because even as juicy as these are, they're not. Look at that. Let's see. Look at that. You can totally get a nice little result with that. Huh. That's kind of surprising. Of course, since they're permanent, I actually did put some gloves in a bottle on my hands before I came on on the air today. My perpetual dry hand situation like we talked about last week. That works so well. That does not bleed under the stencil, which is very pleasing to me. And it makes me rethink how I'm going to use these. Very, very interesting. Now, I'm going absolutely backwards from what I was doing at home when I was playing with them, but then you can put some alcohol ink on and move it around, and look at that. Does not move the ink. Does not move the marker. You got to love that. So it's a great time. I think this 100-day project is a great time to pull out some of those supplies you haven't used for a while, figure out what the heck they're for, and then start using them, because there's no reason for us to be hoarding these art supplies. Not that I've ever done that. But Patty and I were just talking about that last week, because she's going to use the 100-day project to get rid of some paints that she's, collected a lot of different brands and this and that. Same here. So yes, when I get to, I'm sure I will do some gel plate printing during the 100-day project. When I get to that, I am going to take advantage of the paints that I have on hand that I'm trying to get rid of, and I'm just going to go wild with them. Fussy Sterling, 100 days. Fussy Sterling or fussy stenciling? No, it's not just so. This is just simply mineral paper, and it takes the inks very, very beautifully, Amy, very beautifully. So I'm going to set the mineral paper aside, and then let's try this cheap finger paint paper. Now, you may recall I got this at the dollar store. It's Faber-Castell, Jim. Faber-Castell, and I don't know that they sell these in a set. I think you might have to buy them individual. It is a mixed media paper in this journal, yeah. So let's see how it works on the finger paint paper. And I'm going to be curious about this. We'll use the Indian yellow and see what happens. And then I want to show you another different product that I got out this morning, because again, I'm just thinking about it, you guys. I'm thinking about what am I going to do for 100 days? 100 days. It seems like a long time, but you know what? It'll go so quickly. I can't believe it's already February. Can you? All right, so there it is on the finger paint paper. Now, it is staying wet a lot longer than the others. See how it's smeared out a little bit? Interesting. Here's, I'm going to get a different wet baby wipe, and let's see. It does move. Oh my goodness, you can clean it off the finger paint paper. I was thinking this might be the case because this finger paint paper is supposed to be for children, and that is a fascinating thing right there. Let's see how alcohol ink does on the finger paint paper. You cannot clean it off. You can move it briefly, but you cannot clean it off. So that's a good thing. Let's try a different color. I love doing these things and actually playing with these parts, because this is stuff we need to do occasionally to remember what the heck are we supposed to do with these things, right? All right. Juicy, juicy, juicy. I don't know why it comes out so much juicier on this paper than it does. Now that was better. Maybe it's operator error here. I think if you kept it careful, you could actually use the finger paint paper. I'm going to let that one dry for a second, and we'll see how it looks. While that's drying, I'm going to pull the journal back out and flip to the next page. And I want to show you the other thing. I had bought these, I don't even know when. And I think it is. It's a coated paper, but the mineral paper feels like it's coated, but it's clearly not. It's just the actual paper. But this has got, it's got to have some coating on it for sure. It does dry down pretty good though. Let's see. Yeah, but even after it's dry, it'll still move. So I never gesso the mineral paper. No, never have. I don't, for me, that would ruin it because that's the quality of it I like, that it's so slick and so, I guess almost like a Yupo or something. That is what I like about the mineral paper, that quality. All right, so these are charcoals that are by Derwent, and they're in different colors. And they're these XLs. Look how much I've used them, right? Does anybody want to laugh? Are you all laughing out loud? Really, I'm just like, why do I buy all these things and not use them? And they're different colors. So even though it's charcoal, this one has a little bit of an eggplant. This one has a little bit of a gray brownish. And then this one is very yellow. All right, so you use something like these, and it's powder, it's charcoal. So what's going to happen when you work with it? Well, same tin in the same condition. Yeah, I know, right. Oh, good God, I know. Just somebody slap us already. All right, well, you can move it around with your fingers for sure and blend it in. And because you're in a journal, you can probably get by with it, honestly, because, yeah, we are junkies. It could be worse, right? Blew it off. You can probably get by with this because it's inside your journal. The most you're going to be doing is flipping back and forth, and it's going to be okay. It's going to sit there on the page. However, I always want to do things a little bit properly, so I would think, well, you should probably fix it, mainly because this is my first layer, and I know I'm going to add more layers to this, and so I would want to fix it and make sure it's going to sit there. So this is just a clear gesso. You could use clear gesso, you could use matte medium, you could use anything. And you can just paint over it. And you can spread it out because it's powder, right? Look how I'm spreading it out, getting different effects. This is one of my glue brushes. So this is a brush I particularly, look at it. It's a ratty old brush that I saved just for this type of function. I sure don't want to use my good brushes for this. All right. Or you could use gesso. And I'm just going to grab a little gesso. So now I got a little gesso, and you could lighten it. And when you add the gesso, the white gesso, it's going to change the color. And then you can scribe through it. And then I'm going to go right on into the yellow now. And it's actually kind of nice. That is how I did the background on these two pages, this spread over here. I used the yellow and I think this color next to it, which is sort of a reddish hint. And then I just started putting some paint on top of it. It actually creates a nice background because it is gessoed with clear gesso and white gesso. And it is actually really nice, So just think about that. And don't be afraid to just go in and do some different stuff, right? Could smear it around like that, or really, I kind of like that one where I had it sort of roughed up a little bit. Looks kind of cloudy, doesn't it? I think it's pretty. I might tend to go more neutral with these if I'm preparing them that way. So I just go back and forth between the white gesso and the clear gesso. This, it's actually got that nubby gesso feel. And I thought it was really fun to prepare the page that way. So hopefully, and then you could go back in, dry it super fast, and use one of your big old fat pits, put some little borders around, or hey, check this out. You can smear a stamp on there. Look at that. Huh. I kind of like that. Like it's grid but smeared at the same time. This is a stamp I carved, gosh, a million years ago. I like that grunginess. So I guess the lesson today, and all I'm really saying here is think about the 100 days. What do you want to do? What do you want to come out with? For me, I want to come out with stuff to use when I make more work. So I'm going to be working on parts and or preparing some backgrounds like this. And I'm going to try to use up, or at least use, some supplies that I own that I haven't used and that are sitting being ignored in my studio. And I think that might be a fun goal for the 100 days. So I hope you come along for the journey. And next week, actually next week, it's going to be Valentine's Day. Okay, so we will do it. We will celebrate Valentine's Day in 1 week. And I will see you all then. I hope in the meantime you have a great day today. Ciao. Thanks, Jim, for that. That's so nice, seeing some Italian there. Ciao, everybody, and I will see you all next week. Take care. Bye-bye.